My friends, the new deviation scenario has now been in early access for a while. In this video, I will share some useful tips for this scenario. Got any other tips? Please share them in the comments. Okay, let's get started. In this scenario, we can't transfer weapons or deviations from previous scenarios. Some useful items to bring are advanced electric drill and chainsaw. And if you got some metal scraps, it can be useful to transfer some as well. We will need to craft a lot of binding grenades early because they are used to capture deviations, and they cost metal scraps. So that's why it can be a great idea to transfer some early. Currently, since the entire map is unlocked right from the start, it can also be useful to bring some all-weather stew and beer. That's because weather and pollution are a thing in this scenario. It can also be good to bring some tungsten ingots. That's because then you can craft the highest level binding grenades and capture level 45 deviations early. However, I feel like there's a good chance that this will change in the future, and I will add a pinned comment about it if it does. If you're playing this scenario on an alt character, you can easily transfer items between your mains in Eternaland and your alt. When your mains in Eternaland, press E on the storage crate, and then transfer the item you want. Then send your alt to Eternaland and press E on the storage crate, and then you can move the item. And you can now transfer them to your alt scenario by using resource points. Moving on, the next tip is all about the menu. To deploy a deviation, go to Symbiosis, and select an empty slot, and select the deviation and press F. And you can have up to 3 deviations fighting alongside you. And to swap these, just select one of these slots, and select the deviation and press F. It's also good to have a few extra deviations with as high level as you can. Sometimes they take serious damage and it takes a while for them to heal. Since you can easily swap to other deviations even out in the world, just do this while you wait for the damaged ones to recover. And this is also good to know. Over here, there's an option where you can set the deviation to auto-cast abilities in gym battles. And this is really good to know. You can summon all deviation at once by pressing E. And you can also unsummon them again by holding E. Really awesome. The deviations will attack the target if you shoot at it. Did you know that you can also command the deviation by pressing the middle mouse button? That's really awesome. Now the next tip is for our base setup. It is a good idea to fill it up with deviations. Logging Beaver brings logs and also binding grenades, and we will use a lot of those when capturing deviations. He also brings single-use furniture, which is awesome for fusing. Digby Boy brings sword, but also aggregators. We will need a lot of them as well, because it's the fastest way to level our deviations. Rapid Doll brings trash and it gives us scrap metal, and she also brings binding stones. Both materials are really useful as they are needed to craft the high-level binding grenades. It is also good to have a Frog the Leaper for the free fish baits, but more on that later. We recently got the ability to fuse deviations. If you want more information about that, we recently made a video about it. Make sure to check it out. So when fusing deviations, we can use extra fusion materials. It can for example be deviations, but also single-use furniture. So the tip is that it can be a good idea to do furniture runs in Blackfell, and then you also get scrap metal that is needed for the binding grenades. The next tip is for the first phase of the scenario. You want to bring this value up to 90 as fast as possible, and you get it by capturing as many deviations as possible. The reason for this is the way it currently works in the scenario. The scenario has 4 chaos deviations, and they are the leader of each arena, and one of them is unlocked each phase. You can start fighting the first one, the Chaos Extra Dimensional Cat, when your deviation value reaches 90. You can get them as your own deviations as well by buying these mutagens from their shop. They cost victory coins that you get by defeating the arena leader or by winning in PvP. The thing is that they only sell 50 of them per server, so they will sell out really fast. That's why you want to start farming the cat leader as soon as possible. After that, it's a really rare chance of obtaining it when fighting the leaders, so it can take a while to grind. I really hope they change this, since a lot of players don't want to rush early game just because of fear of missing out. So if it changes, I will let you know in the comments, but until then, it is what it is. So the next tip is about fusion. If you check the leader shop, there is something else that is interesting, and it's the skill mutagens. They use extra materials for fusing deviations and can give special skills. What the skills actually do is not described well in the shop, so I really hope it will be added. But at least some of the skills can already be found on deviations. As an example, I find Cry Bullet on Atomic Snail. So these are really cool if you want to add certain skills to your deviations when fusing them. We can also buy these species codes for different deviations. You can use them to craft species mutagens in the Advanced Synthetics workbench. And then you can fuse it with other deviations if it added that fusion material, and it will give you a chance to get that deviation. And here's another tip. As you might have seen, most deviations that you find in the world have low stats, like 1-1. However, you can fish for electric eels and polar jellies with pretty good stats and fuse them with a species mutagen. Now I will show you my favorite locations to catch them. The first spot is on the docks here, at my location. This place is great for catching electric eels, and I recommend using mince bait when catching them. The second spot is on the docks here, at my location. This spot is really good for catching polar jellies. I use crankbait when fishing for them, and that's the reason why I think it's great to have a frog leaper in your territory. And as you can see here, for example, they have better stats, usually 3 or above. So fuse them with your species mutagen for a higher chance to get a deviation with good stats. And speaking of fish, it's a good idea to check out the fish vendors, for example the one at my location. She sells the formula for mince bait and other baits, and she also sells an electric eel for 2000 energy links. And you can also buy the formula for frozen northern pike and northern pike, but they seem to be out of stock. You can then try other vendors, for example at this location. We can see that she at least sells the blueprint for northern pikes, and this spot is also a great fish location for catching northern pikes. As I mentioned earlier, there are 4 arena leaders in the game. Since they are currently all available from day 1, it means that we can access them all early, at least if you've transferred all weather stew and beer. And here is a tip if you want to go to the last leader, Mr. Wish. Enter from my location here to the right of Wishland. And this is good because there are many high-level party monkeys and nutcrackers inside, and we want to avoid them as much as we can. Now let's talk about the wishing statues that you find in the explore areas. If you feed them with wish coins that you loot in the world, it summons a deviation, which can also be a morph deviation or have higher levels, so it can be a good idea to feed them every now and then. But something else that is really convenient is that it marks on the map which deviations you get in that area. So if you're looking for a specific deviation, this is really useful. Now, this tip is for using the XP aggregators. If you have them in a storage crate, they won't work. It looks like they do at first, but after you use them, you can see that the deviation level didn't increase. So that is something to keep in mind. So, let's talk about capturing deviations. There are 3 different ways to increase the chances to capture deviations. The first tip is to use the best grenade for the level of the deviation you want to capture. Level 1 is for deviations between level 1 and 10. And level 2 is for deviations between 11 and 20, and so on. And for deviation above level 40, it's best to use the level 5 grenade. You can also pick up tracks in the world to increase the chance of capturing that specific deviation. And finally, you can bring the deviation down to lower HP to increase the chance to capture it. And now it's time for the final tip for this video. It's a tip if you're looking for an easy way to get endgame materials. Just start at my location here, at the south of Whalebone. If you follow this road and loot trucks, you will find plenty of endgame material, fast and easy. So it's great to do runs like this every now and then. I'm having so much fun in this scenario, but I wouldn't be surprised if something changes over time. If they do, I will let you know. How do you like the new scenario? Do you have any other tips to share? Please share them in the comments. So this is it. Thank you everyone for watching and have a nice day.